Today's incident will wake up your soul. Please watch the incident till the end. In today's video, we will talk about two children whose mother died, so the father married again and threw the children out of the house. Then, how the time took a turn that both those orphan children became the kings of two different countries. This is a very interesting incident. Do listen to it completely. It is a story of very old times that there lived a king in a country. He had a queen who was very beautiful and of good character. The queen had two sons. The king and the queen loved both their sons very much. Once it is mentioned that for a few days, a bird was sitting in the garden of the king making a nest. In a few days, with great effort, she collected every blade of grass and prepared a nest for herself. The queen of the king watched all this for many days with how much effort both the birds prepared the nest together. Then the bird laid eggs in that nest. Then one day, small babies came out of those eggs and they started making noise by clucking due to hunger. The bird and the sparrow used to arrange for the food of those children together. The queen used to see this scene daily. By chance, one day the bird died. The sparrow married a new bird to take care of the children and brought it to her nest. The stepmother did not like these children at all, and one day the bird got a chance and fed the children pieces of stone which got stuck in their throats, and both the children died. She kept the news of the children's death hidden from the sparrow. The queen of the palace was watching from the beginning how the new bird put the children of the first bird to death. The queen became very sad, and she thought that God forbid if I die, then the king will definitely marry again, and like the new bird, that woman will also treat my children in the same way. The queen was very sad about the death of the bird's children. One day, the queen lay down covering herself with a sheet. When the king returned, he asked the queen the reason for lying down like this. The queen said, "Why are you asking, king? Salamat said that if I don't ask, then who will ask?" The queen said, "Your Majesty, first you promise me that you will agree to whatever I say." Your Majesty said, "I promise you that I will agree to whatever you say." The queen said to Your Majesty that you will not marry again after my death. The king said, "Queen, what are you saying today?" Then the queen told the king about the death of the bird's children at the hands of the stepmother. Hearing this, the king also felt very sad. The king gave all kinds of encouragement to the queen and said, "Don't get upset with such small things." But the queen did not agree in any way. Finally, the king promised the queen that after your death, I would not marry again. It was God's will. It so happened that after some time the queen fell ill and she died. In the beginning, the king was very sad about the queen's death. He was very sad, but with time he forgot this. And after some time the minister and courtiers surrounded the king and started saying, "For how long will you stay like this, Your Majesty? Why will you spend your life alone? You should get married." At first, the king refused to marry because he loved his queen, but when the minister forced him a lot, the king got married at his behest. When the new queen came to know that the king had two sons, she started hating them and began thinking of ways to throw them out of the palace. One day, the new queen of the king also lay down, covering herself with a sheet. When the king asked the queen the reason for her sadness, the queen said, "I don't like your sons at all. Either you divorce me or throw both the sons out of the palace." The king kept thinking for some time and then said to the queen, "You should not be sad. I'm expelling my sons from the palace today itself." The king got a letter written on a plaque and hung it outside the palace. At night, the king announced that both his sons were not allowed to enter the palace and that they should leave and go somewhere far from there. When both the brothers returned to the palace, they saw a plaque hanging on the door outside the palace. Then they got very upset and started thinking, "First my mother left me and now my father has also banned me from entering the palace. Now where should I go?" The elder brother told his younger brother to go inside the palace. I had been expelled from the palace. Hearing this, the younger brother said, "Brother, today father has expelled you from the palace. Who knows what will come to his mind tomorrow? He will expel me from the palace too, so I will also come with you." Then both the brothers left the palace and went. While walking, they reached a dense forest. Now they were very tired and they were also feeling hungry. They ate the fruits of the jungle and filled their stomachs. It was evening. The younger brother was feeling sleepy. The elder brother said, "You go to sleep, I will take care of you, I will feed you." The younger brother fell asleep, and the elder brother started feeding. In the moonlight, all the birds of the jungle were visible on the tree. When it was midnight, a parrot and a female parrot came flying and sat on a peepal tree in front of the tree under which the two were sitting. The parrot said, "If anyone is listening, then listen carefully. Whoever will roast my meat and eat it will become a king by the morning, and he will not face any difficulty." At first, the parrot was surprised to see the parrot and the female parrot speaking in human voices, and then the parrot said, "If anyone is listening, then listen carefully to me. Whoever will roast my meat and eat it will become a king after a lot of difficulties and troubles." And the elder brother was listening to the conversation of those two birds every day. The elder brother quickly took out an arrow from his bow and both of them. The birds were targeted in such a way that both the birds died with a single arrow. One brother collected dry wood from the forest, lit a fire, and roasted the meat of both the birds. He ate the meat of the parrot himself and kept the meat of the parrot for his younger brother. After some time, the elder brother started feeling sleepy, so he woke up his younger brother and gave him the roasted meat of the parrot to eat. The younger brother ate the meat and then went to sleep. A thought came to his mind that my brother had worked so hard to roast the meat of the bird for him, and now I should also hunt some good game for him. He left his elder brother sleeping there and went in search of prey for him. He started searching here and there in the forest. His elder brother was sleeping alone. Seeing him alone, a big snake came down from the mango tree. It put its mouth on his mouth and drank his blood. His elder brother died, and the snake went away from there. The younger brother roamed around in the forest in search of prey. He roamed here and there but failed to return. He came to his elder brother. Soon it was morning and birds started flying around making noise. Basan tried to wake his brother up, but his brother did not wake up because he was already dead. The younger brother started crying. Then a thought came to his mind, that now I should arrange for my brother's shroud and burial. Basan started walking to get cloth, etc., for the shroud. While walking, he reached a new country. The king of that country had died, and the king had no son. So while dying, the king had willed that after his death an eagle should be made to fly in the air, and he, the holy hawk, will sit on the head of the person on whose head you should make him your king, and put my crown on his head. By God's will, it so happened that the hawk flew towards Basan and sat on his head. The minister, Qazi, and all the courtiers were following the hawk. When they saw the hawk sitting on Basan's head, they started giving him great respect and speeches, and put the crown on his head. The minister, Qazi, all stood with folded hands, and prayed that, "O Allah, from today you are our king, you are our master, now we will obey your every order." When Masnad suddenly got the kingship, he forgot his brother. On the other side, his elder brother was lying dead. A yogi and jogan passed by there. When the jog saw that a very handsome young man was sleeping, they tried to wake him up but found out that he was dead. The yogis exorcised him and he became alive. He was not dead. He had just fainted when he remembered his younger brother. He started searching for his younger brother. While searching, he reached his brother's city. There were tall crops all around the city. There were many gates to enter the city which were closed as soon as it was evening. There were guards at every gate. It was evening. The elder brother flattered the guard a lot to allow him to enter the city, but the guard was not affected. The guard told him that now the gates were closed. "Now you will have to spend the night outside the city. I cannot help you because it is the king's order that as soon as it is evening, all the gates of the city should be closed and the gate should not be opened again for any person to enter." The fact was that every night a lion used to come from the jungle and attack this city. It used to enter the city and kill and eat men, women and children. That lion had killed many innocent people. That is why the guard was on the king's order to kill and eat that lion. Ralph was not opening the door due to the fear of the lion. He was tired and lay down near the door. After some time he was chased by the jungle, but he was a very brave, smart and courageous person. He had a sword and other weapons with him at that time. Ralph fought bravely with the lion and killed it. The watchman was watching this horrific fight between the lion and Ralph. When the lion died, the watchman opened the door, arrested Ralph, put him in jail, and tied a crown on his head for killing the lion. The king was pleased and made the watchman the minister. The watchman did a great deed by killing that bloody lion. One day a merchant entered the king's country with his enemy ship full of merchandise. Sudhagar sold all his goods there and bought new goods from that country and kept them in his ship. When Sudhagar decided to travel again, his foreign ship did not move from its place. Sudhagar tried very hard and made a very. The old and wise Babaji said that till the blood of the man is not poured into the sea by putting a boat on the ship, this ship will not move. Sudhagar appeared in the court of the king and requested that he wanted a man for sacrifice. He said, "I will kill him and pour his blood into the sea. I'm ready to pay any amount asked for in exchange for that man's head." The king said, "I cannot do this cruelty to anyone. I cannot take anyone's life. Yes, if someone wants to give it in exchange for wealth, then I will not have any objection." The Chowkidar, who had now become the minister, decided to kill Ralph by taking advantage of this opportunity. He was afraid that if Ralph remained alive, he could get into trouble at any time. So he thought, why not hand over Ralph to Sudhagar? He told the Chowkidar that Sudhagar started sharpening his knife. Ralph asked Sudhagar why he was sharpening the knife. Sudhagar replied that he was sharpening the knife to sacrifice him so that his enemy ship, which was stuck in the sea, would move. He said, "Now I will sacrifice you. Some Baba has told me that until I put the blood of one man on the ship and throw it in the sea, my enemy ship will not move. If you can move the ship in some other way, I will not kill you." Ralph told Sudhagar that he should not worry, saying, "I would move your enemy ship right away." Ralph was intelligent, and he took a needle and pricked his finger. Blood started oozing out of the finger. Ralph put a few drops of blood on the enemy ship and dropped a few drops in the sea. The enemy ship started moving immediately. Sudhagar was very happy. He did not kill Ralph but made him his son. When Sudhagar and Ralph landed on the shores of another country, together they sold the goods. One day the daughter of the king of that country and her friends came to Sudhagar to buy clothes. When the princess saw him, she fell in love with that handsome boy with all her heart. The princess said, "I like you and I want to marry you. Will you marry me?" Ralph said yes to her. The princess went and told her father, the king, about Sudhagar's son, saying that he was very handsome and she wanted to marry him. The king ordered his soldiers to present Sudhagar and his son in the palace. The very next day, Sudhagar appeared in the court of the king. The king also liked him very much. Ralph got married to the princess. All the goods of Sudhagar were sold. Now Sudhagar headed back from there to Basan, that is, the country of his younger brother. On return, Sudhagar and Ralph took permission from the king to go to their country. The princes also agreed to go on that journey. Sudhagar's boat was full, and he became very rich, but greed had blinded Sudhagar. His intentions changed. He made Ralph steer the boat for 2 days continuously, and on the third day, Sudhagar himself started steering the boat. Poor Ralph was tired of steering the boat, due to which he fell asleep as soon as he lay down on the bed. Sudhagar, taking it as a good opportunity, picked up Ralph and threw him into the sea. But it was the power of Allah that as soon as Ralph fell into the seawater, he found a very big wooden plank. Ralph held it firmly, and with its help he sat down and landed on the shore of the sea. Ralph was also hungry and thirsty for many days. A washerman and his wife were busy washing clothes on the seashore. When they found Ralph lying unconscious on the seashore, they picked him up from there and took him to their house for some time. Ralph regained consciousness. The washerman and his wife gave him hot milk and fresh fruits to drink. Ralph became completely fine. The washerman had no children, so he adopted Ralph as his son and kept him in his house. When Sudhagar was convinced that Ralph had died by drowning in the sea, he went inside the ship and told the princess about him. The princess started crying. Sudhagar said, "What was to happen had happened. What will you do by shedding tears now? Do this. Marry me." The princess said, "I will not marry you. You are the murderer of my prince. You must have thrown him into the sea. How can I marry the murderer of my prince? How is this possible?" Sudhagar said, "He was my adopted son, not my real son. Similarly, I am not your father-in-law either. You can marry me." They tried very hard to convince the princess for marriage, but the princess could only refuse. The princess was crying, remembering her prince during the journey. When Ralph came to know that an enemy ship had passed from here, he sent both of them to the owner of that enemy ship, Sudagar, so that on the pretext of washing clothes, he could stay with Sudagar for some time. This way, he would get to know about the princess. Both of them went to the ship of Sudagar and asked him for clothes to wash. Sudagar gave his old clothes to the washerman. Then Sudagar took the washerman to the princess, so that the princess's health also improved, and told the princess to wear new clothes and take off the old clothes and give them to the washerwoman. The washerwoman told the princess in solitude, "You do not worry. I know why you are worried. Your husband, the prince, is present in my house. He is fine and healthy. His name is Rauf." When the princess heard his name, she became very happy and started thanking Allah. Then the washerwoman said that Rauf had sent me to this enemy ship to know about you. Both of them told the princess a trick. "Today, when Sudagar asks you to marry him, tell him that you will marry him on one condition. If you tell me the story of Rauf and Basan, then I will marry you." The princess was very happy with the words of the washerwoman, and then the washerwoman said, "Daughter, now I am going back to my house." The princess said, "Amaji, I will follow your advice." Both of them picked up the old clothes of the princess and came back to their house and told everything to Rauf about how Sudagar is forcing the princess to marry him every day. The next day, when Sudagar again asked the princess to marry him, the princess said, "I will forget everything and marry you, but for this I have one condition." Sudagar said, "I accept all your conditions." Sudagar became happy, and after meeting that woman, the princess's health changed. The princess said that my condition is that you will tell me the story of Rauf and Basan. Sudagar said to the princess, "I do not know this story, but I will tell you this after hearing it from somewhere. I will tell it." The princess said that you can tell this story yourself, or someone can tell it to me. I just want to hear this story. Then Sudagar met many old people in search of this story, but none of the old people knew this story. One day Sudagar went to meet the king, and in the course of conversation, he mentioned that my wife wants to hear the story of Rauf and Basan. I am very worried about her. She is very sad, and every day she asks me to tell the story of Rauf and Basan. When the king heard this, he remembered his brother, who he thought was dead. The king also developed a liking for listening to the story of Rauf and Basan. The king announced in every village and city in the whole country that whoever comes and narrates the story of Rauf and Basan in the king's court will be given any reward he asks for. But this story was known to only Rauf and Basan and no one else. The next day, Rauf told his wife on his own. She said, her mother sent the washerwoman to Basan's court. She appeared in the court of the king and said, "Your Majesty, my daughter can tell the story of Rauf and Basan. If you want, I can bring her here." Hearing this, the king was very happy. He said to the washerwoman, "Amaji, we have permission from your side. She should come to the court tomorrow and tell the story. We will listen to this story." After this, the king again announced everywhere that whoever wanted to listen to the story of Rauf and Basan should come to the royal court tomorrow morning. King Basan spent that night very restlessly. The next day, the king and the watchman, who was his minister, all appeared in the court. Sudagar also wanted to tell this story to the princess so that he could get married to her. So he also reached the court of the king with his would-be wife. Neither of them had a daughter. Rauf wore women's clothes and a burqa and went to the king's court, appeared in the court. Before starting the story, the washerman's son, that is, Rauf said to the king, "Before telling my story, I have one condition, that I will tell the king's story bit by bit, no matter how many days it takes to tell the story. And besides this, my second condition is that while telling the story, whoever speaks in the story will be given the death penalty or will be given 100 lashes. If you agree, then I will tell the story of Rauf and Basan." The king accepted all the conditions of the washerman's son, who came wearing a burqa, a cloak of darkness. And the washerman's daughter, that is Rauf, started telling the story. When he reached a part of the story where Rauf dies at the hands of Sam, he said, "I will tell the rest of the story the next day." Saying this, everyone went back to their homes. But when King Basan started bringing these things to mind, he also remembered that this is exactly what had happened. The next day, people gathered in the king's court. The washerman's daughter, that is, Ralph, also became the king. He came to the court of the king and asked for permission to narrate the story from there. The king said that he was allowed. The story was started again. Now, while narrating the story, he reached a place where the guard was not opening the gate of the city to let Ralph enter the city. Ralph fights a lion and kills it. The guard was now the minister and immediately said, "Your Majesty, this story is false. I killed the lion." And this washerwoman's daughter says that Ralph killed the lion. Then the guard said that neither did I arrest Ralph and put him in prison. This story is completely false. Now the guard spoke while listening to the story. So by the king's order, the guard, that is, his minister, was arrested and he was given 100 lashes. After getting lashed, he accepted that Ralph had killed the lion, and I arrested him and put him in prison. Then the washerwoman's daughter, that is, Ralph, said, "Now the rest of the story I will tell you tomorrow." The next day, people gathered in the king's court, and the washerman's daughter, Raouf, started narrating the story with the king's permission. When she reached the part where Sudakar threw Raouf into the sea and forced Raouf's wife to marry him, Sudakar started trembling and quickly said, "Your Majesty, this is a complete lie. I did not throw Raouf into the sea." The king ordered the soldiers and Sudakar was arrested, and he too was given 100 lashes. After being lashed, Sudakar accepted that he was the one who threw Ralph in the sea, and this woman who has come with me to listen to the story is Ralph's wife. That woman who had come with Sudakar to listen to the story lifted her veil and said that it was me. The king addressed the washerwoman's daughter, Ralph. The king addressed Ralph and said, "You tell me now who you are and how you come to know this true story, and you remove your veil." When the washerwoman's daughter, Ralph, lifted her burqa, everyone was surprised to see that he was a handsome young boy. He said, "I am Ralph." The king took the princess from Sudakar, handed her over to Ralph, and ordered her to put Sudakar in prison. Then the king told everyone that he was Basan. King Basan and both the brothers hugged each other and met after a long time. So their hearts were filled with joy. There were tears of joy in their eyes. King Hanat gave his brother Ralph and his wife a place to live in his palace. Ralph started remembering Jogi and Jogan. "Now someone please make us meet our father." After a few days, Jogi and Jogan came to Ralph and Basan in the palace. They told Ralph and Basan that their father is the king of such and such country. He lives there. He has become very old and keeps crying, remembering both of you. When Ralph and Basan came to know about their father, they became very happy. Basan left for his father's place with Ralph and Ralph's wife, Jogi and Jogan. The king was very happy to meet his two sons. Then, after a few days, their father died and Ralph got the kingship. Ralph became the king of that country. In this way, Ralph became the king of one country and Basan became the king of the other country. Both were kings. Ralph became a king after facing troubles and difficulties, but without clothes he became a king after facing troubles. And thus the words of the parrot and the parrot came true. Their stepmother had also died by now, and both of them happily started ruling their respective countries. Dear friends, how did you like this story? Please express your opinion in the comment box, and before leaving, like the video and subscribe to our channel so that you get the notification of upcoming videos first. Take great care of yourself and your loved ones. Allah Hafiz.